We go to the fanciest club in all of Monaco. Bob Sinclair is DJing. And surely enough, I turn my shoulder and it's Mr. Stan Wawrinka.
Welcome back to season 2 of the Inside Out podcast, our look at some of the best stories from throughout the tennis world. And that's really a point to emphasize, and I say it at the beginning of each of these episodes, but that's really what brings us together as a tennis community, regardless of your background, regardless of where you're from, how wealthy you may or may not be, the opportunity to be on the tennis court. It's an international language. It's one of the few global sports, and for those people who are fortunate enough to get to travel the world following the ATP or WTA tours, or even going to an event near your home and just seeing how many diverse people are in the crowd, it's really a shared experience, and it's something that brings us together, truly that makes us a tennis community. And that's the sort of story we want to share here at Cracked Racquets, those sorts of people who have had those experiences in the tennis community that bring them to places they may not otherwise have been, and introduce them to people who they would never have met otherwise in their life. And that is the focus of season 2 here on the Inside Out podcast. As you all know, we are calling this season Court Chronicles, and it looks at the journey of Cameron Mofid, 73 flights, 46 countries, 1 year. Cameron is, of course, here to join me for part 2 of his story. Cameron, how are you doing today? After part 1, I feel like we are at a really fun place as we're about to begin your journey, and I feel like it's only going to get more enjoyable from here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, Alex, for this time for part 2 today. Really excited. This is the part where my journey really kicks into gear with all the travels. Just about to head over to Mallorca in Spain, where Rafa Nadal's academy is. And so looking forward to for starting our talk there today.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It's going to only get more and more fun because, as you mentioned, this is really where the traveling begins. But just to quickly recap for our listeners, in case, again, for some reason, they just decided to start at part 2 of this series, because there are people out there who do that sort of thing. If you want to hear more about Cameron's journey, you can, go see the photos, the videos we discuss here on these podcasts on our YouTube channel, as super producer Daniel Westoff turns this into a video as well. And again, you really are going to want to check out the photos, the videos Cameron took while on his journey, because they speak to the experience as well as words ever could. And some of the things you do, obviously, Cameron, are just spectacular. You can also read more about Cameron's journey. He diaried his entire journal. It's about 36, 37 pages, each part of that journal divided up, corresponding to an episode of the video or the podcast series. And again, there are things Cameron describes there that are truly exceptional. So you're really going to want to check all of this out at our website, crackedrackets.com. But again, just to remind listeners where we left off, your background, you trained at the Sanchez Casal Academy, one of the highly touted academies for tennis across the globe. You then launched your foundation, Legends United, with alongside of the Nick Kyrgios Foundation, raised so much money selling memorabilia signed by tennis players for charity. After all of that, though, you realized college tennis wasn't going to be your pathway, and before you started off at Miami, you wanted to do a little bit of traveling, see the world, and use tennis as a vessel to do that. So again, this is just a random question. As all tennis players can relate to, when you travel anywhere, right, you want rackets with you. I don't go anywhere without 2 sticks. It can be a business trip. It doesn't matter what it is. Just on the off chance tennis comes up, I want to have 2 rackets with me. For you, getting ready to travel, just to see the world, was that something on the top of your mind of, oh man, am I going to be able to get my hits in?
Yes and no. So actually, it's interesting because I never really traveled with rackets just because I didn't have the space or tennis shoes or balls. But a tennis racket always found a way in my hand when on these travels. So when I was, no matter what continent, no matter what city, I never knew who I would meet or, where the federations were. And tennis ball and a tennis racket always made its way into my hand during these trips.
Yeah, like I said, it's an international language. You show up to the court, I mean, if you play tennis long enough, you can do this superficially where you look at someone's appearances, you check out the legs, the side. You can tell if someone's got the serious tennis calves or, if they're just playing for fun. You can just tell by the way someone carries themselves around the court, whether they've got it or not. And certainly, I imagine carrying being at Sanchez Casal, traveling to the Rafa Nadal Academy, you certainly looked like you belonged. And again, that's where we kick things off. So you begin your journey by heading to the Rafa Nadal Academy to Mallorca. You are visiting your friend Kuhan while there. Talk a little bit about, your relationship with Kuhan. How did that start? And ultimately, what led you to begin your journey of all places at, a tennis academy?
Yeah, so Kuhan I actually didn't meet on my first trip to Rafa's Academy, which was before I started ASC, my senior year of high school. So when I was there the first time around, there was an Indian student, one of the best juniors in the world. His name was Adil Kalyampur, and he invited me back to Mallorca while I was working at the Barcelona 500 event a year prior. I was writing at that event. And there on that it was just a day trip. I came, spent one night there and left. When I met Kuhan, and he was such a friendly guy, such a social guy. We really became close friends over that year, and he invited me back. I was there in November, actually, before this crazy year, in between the Milan Next Gen and the London ATP Finals. And so Kuhan invited me back to Mallorca, and that's really what brought me there.
Yeah, and you talk about this in your journal, and there are exceptional photos that I'm sure Westhoff is sharing right now of you and Kuhan, and you see he's in a foot cast, and yet that didn't seem to slow you down. Can you share that story for your listeners again? Because I'm sure you're in Mallorca, you want to see the academy, you want to hit, but you also want to explore the town because I know it's a beautiful place.
Yeah, so Kuhan, I had a layover in Sweden, and sometime during that couple-hour flight, Kuhan had to go to the hospital. I guess he wasn't feeling well. And so when I landed, I didn't really know what was going on because he wasn't responding to my texts, and I didn't have a place to stay because he was supposed to sneak me into the dorms and into the academy. And so it was a bit of a problem because I took a car there, and on the way, I didn't really know what was going on. But when I saw Kuhan, he said, "Oh, I just got back from the hospital." And he was in crutches, a little warrior he is, but yeah, it was weird because he had to sneak me into the dorms because they're not allowed to have, I guess, outside guests in the dorms of the hotel that aren't students. And we wound up sneaking him out. He was supposed to be doing rehab, and we took a train over to Mallorca, to Palma.
So, can just to interject here, trying to sneak someone out who's in a foot cast, that can't be easy.
No, so we had to distract the front desk person, and while he wobbled out, and so we wound up taking a taxi to the train station, and it's an hour train ride to Palma, which is the capital city of Mallorca, of the island. And we got a little nice boutique hotel for a day, and it was pretty unbelievable. I mean, I think in the picture with Kuhan, you'll see the background, I guess, of downtown Palma where the castle is. And so that was pretty beautiful. But later that night was when the fun started because we met a friend of his and we went bar hopping. Kuhan was in crutches, so he was actually hopping, like on crutches.
Something about making a phone call. It's cool as a place.
I don't say it facetiously, but then so we get to these. It's kind of like tapas, wine, whatever, open bar buffet kind of things. We're walking around the cobblestone streets. Kuan's, crutching, and I wanted to play a game of pool at one of the bars. And this is actually one of my favorite stories because it just shows how crazy tennis what it leads me to. Kuan couldn't play because he was in crutches. There was a group of German college students who were hanging around, and I kind of just went up to him and I was like, "Hey, my friend's in crutches. He can't play pool. Would you like to play?" And they said, yeah. One of them said, "Okay, we'll play." There was someone else playing. We started talking. I said, "You know what? It's my first night of this crazy trip. We got to do something." It was like a Tuesday night. The clubs really don't start opening on the island until June. It was April 1st, I think. And so one of the kids, his name is David. We wound up going to Magaluf. So Kuan crutched. Magaluf is a port town, party, British nightlife area. It's very bizarre, very weird. Attracts a very bizarre crowd. and we kind of just, I guess, danced into the night, with a bunch of British college and these German students, David, and David wound up becoming one of my closest friends.
Yeah, and again, all of these photos can be seen if you are watching this on our YouTube channel. It certainly looks like a fun time. But yeah, I imagine you enjoy your time in Mallorca. And again, this is where the tennis aspect comes in, right? Because you meet these people who you would otherwise have no, I suppose, access to, no reason to come across for any other reason than you both happen to play tennis in your life. And you sort of touched on it there. These people become your lifelong friends, right? What do those experiences mean to you, particularly now, given the fact that you've spent a couple of years in college and, are a little bit further removed from the trip?
Yeah, actually, I thought that I didn't realize how special all the people that I met during that last year were going to be to me until, as you said, I was a little bit further removed from college, because all of the people I met are still now some of my closest friends. Whereas in college, you meet hundreds of people, there's thousands of people around campus, and only a few of them really are I consider close friends. So I would say I made more close friends from the year I had last year than being surrounded by thousands of, college kids my age this year.
Yeah, it's a feeling, again, being in the tennis community. It's one that resonates when you're at a tournament or you're just at the local club. There's some sort of language, again, a way everyone carries themselves that it's just so relatable. It makes the tennis community, as I've said, a community and brings us all together. But no, I imagine your time in Mallorca was great. I also imagine that you had to have spent some time on the tennis courts there as well. But then from there, the one-way trip was to Mallorca. Did you know that Morocco would be the next stop?
Yeah, so that last day, I got in a little bit of a trouble because the last day in Mallorca, they found out that I'd been staying with Kuhan and I guess taking advantage of the free food, which isn't necessarily free for me that day or those days. And so I got into a little bit of trouble there. And Rafa, I actually ran into Rafa because Rafa was there. He was preparing for the tournaments in Rome and Madrid and Barcelona, I guess. And so I met Rafa, which was great. And there was a 250 event going on in Marrakesh. And I said, well, how cool would it be to go to Africa? I mean, I guess it's not really, Africa, but it was Northern Africa, and to see the 250 event. So I took a flight to Barcelona, and from there I went to Marrakesh.
And that was not the original plan. That just sort of ended up happening.
Yeah. So no. So I mean, I had an idea where I wanted to go after I had booked this flight to Mallorca originally to see Kuhan. I kind of had to figure out where I wanted to go next. And I looked at a map and I said, well, Marrakesh actually isn't so far away from the south of Spain. And that was really the tournament is what brought me there, the 250.
So talk about that, because on my list of tournaments I would like to attend someday, Marrakesh is near the top of the list. Does it live up to the hype?
100%. It was one of the most interesting events I had been at, because actually when I went, there was a Davis Cup event before the tournament. And so I want to say Lithuania play Morocco in a Davis Cup match, which was just filled with, Arab fans in the crowd, cheering for them. And the coolest part was, so one of the guys I had met in Delray, his name was Adrian Menendez. And I had his number. We talked a few times, and I texted him. I said, look, Adrian, if you're around, if you could get me a player's guest pass, that'd be amazing. I'd love to cheer and support you. He said, okay. And both of Adrian's parents were there. His girlfriend was there. And Adrian had to play Lamine Waheb in the first round, who every year somehow pulls up these crazy upsets. The guy's, he's a little bit overweight. He's kind of semi-retired, I guess, in his early 30s, and he plays prize money tournaments. I think he coaches. I'm not really sure. And Adrian had to play him. It was the longest match, one of the longest matches on tour last year, about 3.5 hours. And I remember just sitting there and having to root against Lamine was a little bit tough for me, because I had watched him. My family's Egyptian, and so I had, idolized him a little bit just because he was Moroccan. But it was good. He came out. Adrian won that match. Adrian won his next match, 5-5, and then he beat Verdasco, which was a huge win for him in the next round.
Yeah, no, that is so awesome. And then, just I got to ask you some tennis questions from there because I know there's the photo of the event on the red clay, I believe, but just being that in that environment, to be in a match in Morocco, which again, northern part of Africa, but still, I guess just in terms of your viewing experience, you talk about being different. Is it not just the tennis event itself, but just being in the city, the culture, or is it all of the above?
Yeah, I mean, the example I used in the memoir was I felt a little bit like I was Aladdin, kind of sprinting through these bazaars. And I really was, because in between the tournaments, in between the matches and spending time with Adrian, I mean, I went and rode a camel, and I drove through the kind of nooks and crannies of all the little, parts of the bazaars and these meat markets. I put on a keffiyeh, which is that kind of traditional Arab ground that you see, in the movies. And yeah, just I went to a hammam, which is like a Islamic bathhouse, which was like super cool experience. And then the tournament too is so unique because Arab culture is very different than European and American culture, and so it's more of a, I guess, familiar. Everyone's talking to everyone, and it was just a really, really incredible tournament. So unique from anything I had been at before. I really loved it.
Yeah, again, it's on my list of tournaments to attend at some point in my life. And, eventually I know Adrian did not win the event, and eventually your stay comes to a close there. But, in terms of ranking Marrakesh and the events you have been to, top three?
I've been to probably 20 of these ATP events or the sites. So top three is tough. I would say definitely top five or six.
Okay.
Top 20 percentile without a doubt in my mind.
Yeah. The question is, are you and Adrian going to the club like you and Tomic?
No, see, Adrian's one of those guys that I said are more serious about his tennis. He's a Spanish grinder. He was, plus he was having a good week and he wasn't about to give that up for everything. So no, I mean, I guess there wasn't, no, Marrakesh is not really Miami. It's not as, the culture is a little different as far as nightlife is concerned, but no, Adrian wasn't about that at all, and I don't think his girlfriend would allow it to go out either.
Hey, I had to ask the question. The opportunity again. You're only in Morocco every so often, and as great as Adrian and your week was there, I know for you, you then head off to Bulgaria, and things maybe didn't go quite as well.
Yeah, Bulgaria was tough because so one kind of weird quirk or idiosyncrasy about me is I hate the cold. I hate it more than anything else. And everyone always knows that I always wear my flip-flops everywhere, especially when I travel. Flip-flops, shorts, t-shirt, that's it, tennis shirt. And I didn't realize how cold Europe was in April. I figured, oh, it's spring, everything's going to be warm, it's going to be beautiful. It was not the case. And so I had a 5 a.m. flight, Ryanair, woke up at 4 a.m. I was exhausted. I go to Memmingen, which is like 2 hours outside of Munich. It's some low-cost airline. I think my flight was like 12 euros. 12 euro flight or something ridiculous. They have ridiculous airfare prices. And I was freezing. It had to be Fahrenheit, like 30 degrees. And the airport didn't really have much heating. And so I got sick. I get to Bulgaria. Ben, he's from Bulgaria, he also went to Rafa's academy, who I met the same time I met Kuhan. And, they picked me up with his brother. We're excited. So Ben didn't have a license legally in Bulgaria, but he loved driving, and I wasn't going to stop him. But his mom told him that, I had to drive the car. I hadn't driven a car since I left San Diego. So it had been 2.5 years, 2 years since I had driven a car. And pretty much my first day was just sitting in bed dying. His grandmother making me traditional Bulgarian soups, while he was at tennis practice. So I recover a little bit. Ben is like me in a lot of ways. We like to push the envelope with things. We go to the casino and we're playing roulette, and Ben's winning, I'm losing. That's normally how it is on the tennis court too when I'm with him. But so Ben's winning, I'm losing. It's all fun. The next day we have to drive to his tennis practice. His mom says I have to drive. And I didn't put this in the memoir. I'm hoping his mom doesn't see this because he'll kill me. But Ben said, I want to drive, and I was sick. I wasn't going to drive. So I said, okay. And he's a little bit of a speed demon himself. So we're driving this, his Mercedes, nice Mercedes, and it's raining, really rainy. And he's got to be going fast, like fast. And he has to make a turn. And I just remembered thinking, I was too sick to think about it, but I was just like, he's going fast. He turns this car very fast. Obviously, we start drifting because it's pouring rain, and he's going 80, 90, 100 miles an hour. Slam into the highway divider. And smoke just starts. I didn't put this in the memoir because I was worried his mom was going to see it, but smoke just starts going up. Like the engine is fuming. Like there's like smoke coming out of this thing. I thought it was gonna like blow up. So like I get out of the car. It's raining. Like there's cars flying by. Call the police. And obviously Ben didn't have a license, so he couldn't. I mean, if he said I was driving, he'd go to jail. So we switch seats. The police guy comes. I'm sick, and he goes, they're speaking Bulgarian and getting mad with me, and Ben's trying to translate. And at this point, I'm freaking out because these guys look pretty upset. They closed the road. And the point when I really started freaking out was Ben says, all right, don't freak out. They're going to take you to jail for a little bit and ask you some questions. You're going to have a translator. And if they don't give you one, just keep on requesting a translator or don't say anything. And I was like, you motherfucker, you are going to send me to a Bulgarian prison cell, and I'm going to be like interviewed and detained by like Eastern European police. And so then Ben says, okay, don't worry. And so he starts, I guess in Eastern Europe, it doesn't work like the way it works here. You slide them a couple dollars here and there, and you wind up getting your way. So there was some sort of negotiation. I don't really know what happened. But we wound up leaving the car and taking another car, and someone picked us up, and we went to tennis practice, and I never heard about that day again. Ben's mom got a little bit upset with me, but took the bullet on that one for him. So.
Yeah, again, these are the sort of experiences that I think you can only be brought through tennis, right? We can associate that. I think on the day we're recording this, I think it was Medvedev who got caught speeding when he was in either Monte Carlo. I'm not sure where he was, but again, it's a relatable experience, certainly. But that I mean, it's very thankful that nothing poor happened. That you were able to get out of it okay. But that is awesome. And then from there, I know you had a brief stop in Athens, and again, just to get to travel to all these various places, to get to go from there to Athens, and then from Athens to the Monte Carlo Masters, just to talk more about that swing. To be able, again, was Monte Carlo another thing where you were like, well, I'm going to be in this region of the world, make that part of your journey as well?
Precisely. So it was actually more of, I was in Bulgaria, and I knew I wanted to see the Monte Carlo event, 1,000. So I said, all right, well, I have like 3 days. And how it normally works, my thought process is I just look at a map, I go to Skyscanner, and I see what's cheap and what's close. And I felt bad because in the memoir, I mean, I really didn't do it justice. I did 2 sentences on, seeing the Acropolis, which is, some people, that's, for me too. I mean, it's one of the best things I've ever seen. But I was there for 2-3 days. Saw the Acropolis. I went to a Greek island called Aegina, which is just a picturesque, beautiful area. And I spent half the day watching Tsitsipas's match because they were playing him in Monte Carlo, his first round or second round. And all the Greek fans were around watching. And I said, hey, I'm going to be there in 2 days. And they were like, no way, really? That's crazy. Acropolis was amazing. I went out by myself, as I normally do sometimes. I went, Lindsay Lohan has a nightclub, a Greek nightclub called Lohan. And I went to the surrounding nightclubs alone. And that's just how it is. I met this guy from Australia. Met a bunch of, cool ladies, cool guys, cool people in general. That was what I did before I went to Monte Carlo.
Yeah, no, again, that is so awesome. And from Athens, you head over to Monte Carlo. And again, you write about this in the book, and people can see in the memoir, and people can see more videos and photos from your journey on YouTube. But from there, you get to go to Monte Carlo. And just a reminder, this started off as a one-way ticket to Mallorca. Monte Carlo, just to be at that Masters event, that's got to be that. Again, Marrakesh, Monte Carlo, all of these sorts of cities, you just hear about these events. It's got to be phenomenal.
Yeah, Monte Carlo ranks number one or top, definitely top three. Monte Carlo was beautiful because I went to Menton, and when I got there, it's a French port town for those who can't afford to stay hotels in Monte Carlo, like myself. So I stayed in the cheapest option I could find, which was a Menton. It's 20-30 minutes by train to Monaco. And one of my coaches from the ASC, Italian guy Renzo, who I stayed with in Milan, he's from Milan, who I stayed with him for the next gen. He was there with his family visiting, and that tournament was a blast. I remember I had front row tickets. Renzo hooked it up, which was awesome. We saw Nadal play Pella. I saw Medvedev beat Djokovic, and I had actually played on that center court before, because when I was three or 4 years prior, I did Tennis Europe events, and one of the events was at the Monte Carlo Country Club, and I begged the tournament director to let me play on center court. See if I can dig up that photo, but I played on center court there when I was like 16 years old or 15 years old, which was pretty awesome. And so to be back there, I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, I went to the Casino Monte Carlo, and I had to use one of my friend's IDs because they don't accept American driver's license, only passports. I didn't have one. So I remember they scanned, like, on the ticket that says welcome, it should say welcome Cameron Mofid. It says welcome. I'm not gonna say my friend's name, but there you go. And so I did, I wore a suit and I was so excited. I did some roulette, did some, little gambling. And that night, Renzo said, we should go out. We should go out. And I said, all right, yeah, of course, I'm down. We go to the fanciest club in all of Monaco. Bob Sinclair is DJing. And surely enough, I turned my shoulder, and it's Mr. Stan Wawrinka, who had lost earlier. And he's having a great night himself. He's having a lot of fun. That night was magical. That was one of the favorite, definitely one of my favorite days ever. So Renzo and I, we get back. I wake up the next morning, and I see an ad for exotic car rentals. And keep in mind, I have not driven a car since like August of 2017. It's now April of 2019. I had not driven a car, period, nothing. And it said super cheap. It was like, I think $150 or something to rent a Ferrari for 30 minutes. And I said, all right, let's do it. So they said, are you a familiar driver? Do you have a driver's license? I said, yeah, I have a driver's license. I drive frequently, all of that. I said, okay. So I remember just racing this Ferrari. It was the first time I had driven a car in years, and just racing it up the cliffs of Monaco, which was incredible. See if we can pull up that picture too. But yeah, my time in Monaco was like a fairy tale, really.
Mm-hmm. And to see Stan Wawrinka, it gets back to another thing. You go to these events. Players are people too. They're going to go out. They're going to enjoy Monte Carlo. It's not like they're there. Well, I guess a lot of them do actually end up training there, but certainly they're going to enjoy their experiences. And for you, again, to get to see the tennis, to get to be out on the town, to get to see all of these various things, to be with, I believe you got to hang out with Renzo a little bit, who was your former coach. Just all of these things. I have to imagine this entire part of the journey, as you look back at this portion, what were some of the takeaways?
Yeah, Monaco was definitely near the top. I mean, in a lot of ways, it just doesn't seem real because it's literally a beautiful set of tennis courts, the best tennis courts, best maintained tennis courts. And on the back, you have the ocean, sparkling around, and the aerial views, when you see on Tennis Channel. And, being there's no substitute. It was just absolutely beautiful, between the meals and just going down the old town of Monaco and and seeing the botanical gardens, and then, you know, in the nights, you know, going out and going to different restaurants and enjoying the culture. Everything was just so magical. And Renzo's uncle is Riccardo Piatti, who coaches Yannick Sinner and Borna Coric. And he invited me for a day, my last day, to Bordighera, which is where his tennis club is. So that's where I spent my last day with Renzo and his family, getting a tour of the Piatti Tennis Center in Italy. And that was really the end of the first set of this journey.
Yeah, no. And again, it's what a first set it was. So we will leave part 2 there. Well, I guess I will offer you the last word, as it is your story. Any final thoughts on this part of the journey?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is when I kind of just got the travel bug really going, and the next set is even crazier. The next part 3 is one of the most, is one of the best, if not the best, part of this.